Hello, welcome. I'm the Renegade Gamer, and today we're doing a review on this game right here, or at least the first part of it. If you can't tell what I'm holding here, Dot Hack GU, and this is just going to be on the very first one, Rebirth. I do plan on reviewing the other two of these games, or sorry, three, because there's one I haven't played. That would be the newest one, the Dot Hack 4 GU game, which is only on this disc. So I played the Dot Hack series when they first came out. The first four I finished when they first came out, and then GU series I finished as they came out. And well, the Dot Hack series, if you don't know anything about it, the Dot Hack series is a massive multimedia story that takes place on an online game that's offline to the player. If that sounds a little confusing for you, I'll make it more simpler, okay? It's an offline game that mimics an online game. Alright, an online MMO, but it's offline. It has its own story. The Dot Hack universe itself consists of Dot Hack Sign, Dot Hack, the first four games, Infection, Mutation, Outbreak, and Quarantine, followed by Dot Hack Roots. Actually, I think there is one between those. It's a manga though. But then it's Dot Hack Roots. Then you also have the three GU games. Plus now the fourth one that just came out, and then there was an actual online Dot Hack game released in Japan, I believe, but it shut down many years ago. It was only released for like I think about a year or two. It didn't do well. But the good thing is that the Dot Hacks, now I've complained in the past with Final Fantasy and the way they do their massive multimedia. The Dot Hack series is something that you don't really need to have a lot of knowledge of to go into. Each one of the stories is kind of self-contained. I mean, yes, it does reference things that happens in the past, but the story itself is very self-contained, so you can kind of follow what's going on pretty easily in it. The things that happen in the past do affect the games, but it's not to a degree that I've seen in other media. Let me turn this on, see if it gets a little more light. Oh, that's way too much light. Have to figure something out there. Because I'm looking at this, I look like I'm in the dark. Anyway, let's get back to the review. So, let's talk about a few things here. Now, if you ever played the first four games, Infection, Quarantine, Mutation, and Outbreak, they were played very much like the earlier MMOs that came out in the 2000s, your EverQuest and everything else. Very much like an old-fashioned MUD game from them. And, you know, they were functional, they were fun. The story line was really what the high selling point was, because gameplay was not all the greatest in the world. Then we moved to the Dot Hack GU series, where the gameplay has been completely and totally improved upon quite a bit. The gameplay in GU is very actiony. Now, this is not a full-out action RPG, but it's very action-based. The animations flow a lot smoother this time. You still only have 3 characters you can use. But there's a variety of characters you can use throughout the games. In this first game, if I recall right, you have Hiseo, who is your main character, and I'll go into his character later. Pi, Adelie, Kuhn, Pyros, Gaspar, and Syllabus, if I recall right. So you have, I believe it's 7 characters at your beck and call in the first game. That roster will expand significantly over the course in the next 2 games. So if you're concerned about that, that shouldn't be a big deal. Each character is a class. You have Haseo is an adept rogue, which means that he can use blades and swords. Later he can use other weapons as well. But most of the classes are only, all the rest of the classes are pretty much revolved around one type of weapon. For instance, Pi is, I forgot what the class is. She's basically the equivalent of what a monk is. She uses the fist weapons. Kun is it's not a wave master, that's the first game. Steam gunner. And so he uses a gun, and it also has close reaching abilities. My point is that all the characters are very unique amongst each other right now. That will change in the future when you get more, because unfortunately a lot of character classes start overlapping quite a bit. But for now, they all have most of them have a very uniqueness to them. So, let's see. But yeah, gameplay-wise, the animations are very smooth. It's fun to get a Ringeki. The attacks are really well done. You do feel a lot of impact. But rebirth, and specifically rebirth here, you can really feel where a lot of the starting things are to rebirth. You can tell this is the first of a new series because there's a lot of experimentations and things are a little bit clunky. Now, it's not major, and it is fixed in Volume 2 and 3. For instance, with Haseo, if you try to go from daggers to swords, you literally have to go into the menu and change over from a dagger to a sword. Whereas in the next two games, you can do it on the fly, provided you activate your skills. So, we got that. This game has what's known as area code words. What an area word does is that basically you go to your hub, a town, which is designated by a Greek symbol. In this case, it's Delta. You get words from message boards, other characters, sometimes email. And basically, with these words, you can create a combination. You use 3 of these words, and it makes a combination of that combination will create an area for you that has a level to it that is also has a treasure level to it. It may not sound impressive, but it actually is. There's a lot of variance into this that you can do. Some enemies only show up in certain words. Some treasures only show up in certain words. Some types of quests only show up in certain words. But one thing you should know is that the gameplay is not very balanced, and it never has been in DieHack. So, for those people looking for a challenge, I don't really recommend you take a really low level to Haseo. I'm talking like maybe, I don't recommend taking a low level to Haseo into like someplace that's 10 or 15 levels higher than you are. For one thing, you are not going to be able to do the damage, quite literally. There is a certain time where basically if an enemy is like 15 levels above your character, they'll literally do 0 damage. You won't be able to kill them, no matter what you do. So my advice is, if you do want to do something of that sort, I would go only about maybe 5 to 6 levels higher than what you actually are. Plus you get some better equipment that way pretty quickly. And they kind of screwed around with the experience in this one, because in the original, experience didn't acquire that quickly. In this one, it seems like they boosted a little bit fast, so you're going to be gaining levels pretty quickly in the game. There's also a cheat mode in this particular version. I don't really recommend the cheat mode. I think that a game should be played as it's originally intended, but that's just me. I'm very much in favor of that. I'm not very much in favor of cheat mode in the game. Now, I played it straight. There's quests in this game. Now, the quests are interesting, Because basically, you go to the quest shop and you meet a NPC, and to be honest with you, the quest is not that interesting itself. However, a lot of these quests have some type of story told that's about the characters. See, this is one of the biggest differences between the first Dot Hack series of games and this Dot Hack series of games, is the characters. The game story is literally about the characters more so than it was in the beginning, in the first 4. But yeah, the quest, you go through it, you may interact with the characters you brought with you that you took the quest with, or you may interact with some character that is not in your party, but is actually important to the story, or some side character here that's doing something or another. There's a lot of interactions here is what I'm getting at. There's not a lot of quests, but they're all worth doing. They're not bad, and they're quite easy to get done. It's usually go to the dungeon, kill this enemy, or go to this dungeon, get this item. It's really nothing that major, and it doesn't take a lot of time most of the time. Plus, you're probably going to gain some levels out of it, so there's no problem there. Arena fights are fun. Arena fights basically change up the battle system quite a bit, because you're playing against basically, you're still playing against AI the whole time the game is going, but you're playing against players because it's PvP. And they can Rengeki you as much as you can Rengeki them, and there's a little bit of timing involved, trying to make sure that you don't get counterattacked when you do a Rengeki. And it's actually quite fun. I enjoyed the arena quite a bit. So we have that. Is there anything else I want to get to before I get to the story and the characters? Let me think about that a minute. Oh, I guess I could mention the motorcycle and the Ryu books. The motorcycle you get in the game is because you can become a guild master. I'm not really spoiling anything here yet. But yeah, you get a motorcycle, you can drive around the map. I'm gonna be honest with you, motorcycle is a little bit stiff. It does get better in the next 2 games if I recall right, but in the first game it's really stiff. The controls are a little bit. It's not to the point where you can't do anything with it. It's just you can feel it's a little stiff. It wasn't quite worked out here. I don't know why when they did the remaster they didn't go back and repair some of the stuff, but they didn't. So the Ryu books. Now the Ryu books is something that you get, and you get prizes for filling them out. The prizes being background music, background wallpaper, movies, greeting cards. Now these may not sound like incredible stuff, but I don't know, they're fun to get, and it's also fun to lay out your screen with new music and new pictures. At least I find it fun. And then the greeting cards, you can actually learn more about from your other characters as you email them back and forth. But the Ryu books themselves, they'll probably take you a little bit of time to figure out how to get them all done. Probably the ones that are going to be the most pain in the ass to get for you is the monster one and the weapon one. The rest of them are not really that bad, but the monster one and the weapon one can be a real pain in the ass. So for those completionists out there, I'm sorry. it is a pain in the ass, and unfortunately a lot of Volume 1 stuff doesn't appear in Volume 2 or 3, so if you want to get it all completed here, this is the game you got to start with to complete all your stuff. So anyway, so from now on I'm going to be discussing spoilers. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You have a chance to close the video one last time, and here we go. Okay, spoilers. Haseo. Now, if you play this game, you're probably not going to like Haseo. He's probably going to come off as a jerk, a complete dickhead, and probably going to be very much an asshole that he comes off as. You have to remember a few things about Haseo. First and foremost, the kid, he's a kid. I think in lore, he's 14 years old. And he's a kid. There's some other extenuating circumstances I won't mention in this video. We'll get into it in the next couple ones. Probably the third video is where I'll mention it, finally. But there's another reason for it as well. He's a kid. One of his friends has been PK'd, or player killed, and has gone into coma. He's very ticked off about that, wants to find Tri-Edge, is frustrated as hell. He got data drained. He got his level from 150 knocked all the way back to 1, and everybody's bugging the piss out of him. He's just a ball of anger. Okay. That being said, he also has an attitude, and that attitude is very much, I've seen this attitude online with other players. Okay. He has a power-hungry attitude, where he just wants to gain more and more power, gain more and more better equipment, gain better levels, just so he can acquire more strength. Now, in this case, he wants to use that strength against Tri-Edge, but it doesn't change the fact of the matter that he's kind of power-hungry. However, that's a good place to start, because unlike the first 4 hack games, these games are very character-focused. See, Kite in the very first 4 games was a character, but only in the most tangential markings of it. We didn't know a lot about Kite himself, because Kite was basically an avatar. And we did learn a lot about Black Rose and a few other characters. But my point is that it was more focused on the plot in those 4 games. This game is focused completely on character. I mean, it's dripping with character, okay? We get a starting point for Haseo. We get a starting point for Adelie. We see the starting points for other characters as well, such as Andaris, Alicade, Endrance. We see the starting and ending points for Endrance, or at least an ending point. We see a lot of character development going out throughout this game, and it's interesting. I found this interesting when I played this, because I was like, wow, they have improved so much in this game. The storytelling's a lot better. It is over dramatic, I admit that freely, and very anime-maic. It's very anime, alright? If you got an issue with anime, you're probably not gonna like the game, okay? It has a lot of that overtones of anime. It's been bled into it. But Hack started out as an anime, so what do you expect, okay? But yeah, I mean, you got a lot of character stuff that's going on. Basically, that Haseo is, like I said, he starts off as a very power-hungry feller, and he learns throughout the course of this game what power is, what it means to have that power, and what the consequences can be because you have that power, and what can happen when you let that power out of control. He gets this wake-up call near the end of the game when he almost kills Coon, and realizes just how far he went. And it's not pretty. He didn't like what he saw. And it's one of the things I really like about this game, is that it's shown point blank to him about how far he was going. Adelie is another great character. One that a lot of people find annoying, and I understand this. I get why. She's very shy. Well, I wouldn't say she's that shy. I'm not really sure how to describe her. She's a nice girl. She is insistent. A little shy in areas as far as trying to express herself. I guess that's a good way to put it. Naive and a bit stubborn. And also completely obsessed with her guild's message of basically no PKing. And I can understand why Haseo would be really, really frustrated with this woman because I've met people like that in my life. And people that are very much wanting to push their ideals on you. I don't like ideals being pushed on me. I don't like trying to live up to whatever expectations you may have. So yeah, I can kind of get where Hiseo is coming from. But I do feel for Adelie quite a bit throughout the game. And I understand her plights and where she's coming from too. So that's one of the things I do like about this game, is that nothing is really presented in a black and white fashion. There's a lot of gray in it, in that area. So yeah, we get a lot of good stuff that goes on there. We get now I've heard people say that the game kind of gets hijacked. The plot is hijacked by the Coliseum fight. It's kind of hard to argue that it doesn't, because very much before that point, he's doing everything he can to find Tri-Edge. Basically, he goes to a Coliseum with Syllabus and Gaspard, and Entrance pisses him off, and then basically the next 15 hours are dedicated to try to beat the shit out of Entrance for pissing him off. But it turns out that it's kind of required because he's an Avatar user. But, you know, I can understand the argument that the plot kind of gets derailed for about 15 hours because of that. But we get some good stuff out of it, so it doesn't bother me. Like I said, we get a lot of character-focused stuff. Things are done with Adelie. Things are done with Seo. We are introduced to a whole slew of new characters. This game is really good at establishing a lot of characters, and we get established Saki and Bo. We get established Antarius, Sirius, Alicade, Oban. You know, a lot of characters are established here. You know, you understand who they are, what they represent, where they are, whatever they do. You know. And we'll see where they all go in the next 2 chapters. That's pretty much what the standard is of this game. It's a great establishment for what the story is going to be, without also telling a story itself. That is something I really like about this particular game, is it still has a story it's telling. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And because a lot of times I've seen games that try to be trilogies, the first game is literally all establishment and no story. Not really. And this game does have that. Now the story will get darker and edgier in the next volume, but we'll get there when we get there. Let's see. Let me talk about the final dungeon. Or, well, not the final dungeon. There's no final dungeon in this game. The closest thing we get to the final dungeon basically is the Coliseum fight. But let's talk about the final fight. So the final fight, we finally catch up with Tri-Edge, and the biggest question that rotates in everybody's mind is, who the hell is Tri-Edge, and why the hell does he look like Kite? Well, there's a reason for that. I'm not going to explain it in this video because it would spoil things that happen within the next 2 games. So, sorry. But let's talk about that fight in itself. It's a really fantastic fight. You have a 3-on-1 battle, and Tri-Edge can literally wipe the floor with you if you come in there unprepared. I was able to fight him and beat him on the first try, although when I beat him I was down to like maybe 75 health, and I probably couldn't have took another hit from him. He moves fast. He does a lot of nasty area effect moves. Really, really cool fight. I enjoyed it quite a bit. And then, of course, we have the Avatar fight, which is another cool fight. Not extremely hard, but hard enough. And believe me, the Avatar fights do get more difficult as these games go on. This was probably by far the hardest of all the Avatar fights, but it was a fun fight nonetheless. But yeah, Overall, I would say Rebirth is a good game. The as far as the remake goes, or sorry, remaster goes, honestly, I think they could have did some more with the remaster. I don't care about the graphics parts because the graphics are great and they looked great back in the day. You know, they were very stylized graphics and they looked fine. They aged well. That's not what I'm getting at. I wish they would have fixed a few things within the combat system in the remaster. But it looks like all they really did was just up the experience you got, which is a damn shame because Rebirth is a good game. Like I said, it could use a few more modern conveniences for you. Also, one other thing I should note is that there is no autosave in this game. So make sure you save before you go to a dungeon. Otherwise, you may end up having to replay about the last 20-30 minutes or worse. Because there is no autosave. Music's really good. It's nothing fantastic, it's just really good. I remember really liking this Volume 2's music. When I get through it and do the video, I'll probably give a better opinion on it. But the music here is really good. I really enjoyed it. It's just, I don't know, Rebirth's a good game. If you never played the Dot Hack game, I recommend it. With as many JRPGs that are out these days, or a lack of, you could really go worse than Dot Hack. It's a great game. I say give it a shot. You know, pick up Recoded because it's so far it's been a pretty good game. Like I said, I only finished the first volume right now. When I finish Volume 2 and 3, I'll post more videos on it. And because there's only one on there I've never played, and that's the new one, Volume 4. So, yeah. Oh, one last thing I guess I could mention. So, when Dot Hack came out, the GU, specifically Rebirth, if you bought a collector's edition, you got the terminal disc, which basically elaborated what happened between Dot Hack, the first 4 Dot Hack games, and Dot Hack GU. The problem is that if you didn't have that, you were left, and you didn't watch any assign, or not. If you didn't watch any routes or anything, you were pretty much starting the game off and didn't have a clue what was going on a lot. Well, I mean, you do. Like I said, the game is fairly consistent about keeping its story together, but it took a little bit to kind of get where you were at. It's like, oh, okay, this is another world. This is a second version of the world. Okay, these ain't the same characters. Okay, but my point is they added the terminal to the discs as an extra. So, and it unlocks as you more information unlocks as you finish the volumes. So there's an extra there. Also has parody mode, which is, I gotta be honest, parody mode is not that funny, but it's there. But anyway, I'm just kind of shooting shit now. But yeah, you get a chance, I say pick up Dot Hack Recoded. It's a good game. I think you like it. If you're into RPGs, I think you might like it. So anyway, that's all I got to say. This is Renegade Gamer, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Till then, take it easy.